We're going to begin, everybody, in just about, okay, we'll begin in about 20 seconds. Hey, Ariel, how are you?
Hey, Santita, how are
Okay.
you?
I hope you had a blessed holy season.
I did. I did.
Wonderful. And your family.
Mm, family's everything.
Uh, That's it. Trust and believe. I get it. So we're coming up in two. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. We've got a lot to talk about. So much is happening. I have to tell you, now as we are recording this show, there is a court case pertaining to Chicago, Illinois. There's also one that's being heard about Portland. Should the National Guard be deployed here? The judge has been asking some very interesting questions. I'm going to have attorney Tanya Woods to get into those. Like, where will they be deployed? What are you trying to do here exactly? Be very specific. I don't know how to read the judge, but I do know that there is an energy here, a spirit here, a feeling of occupation, quite frankly, that has been very, very unsettling, particularly in the Black and Brown communities, and to so many people who care, quite frankly. Just last night in Chicago, thousands of people were marching downtown in opposition, and it was a rainbow, everybody. Red, yellow, black, brown, and white. We are united on this front. People don't feel comfortable with this, don't feel comfortable. And now we're coming into the midterms. We are a year away, really, from the midterms. And Ariel has been working, trying to get people registered to vote. And so Tanya Woods and Tio Hardeman, we all have been. And the question is, in a normal year, voter registration and, quite frankly, trying to give people equal access to the vote is a very, very difficult thing. Indeed, in 1870, the Constitution was amended to give us just that, not just Black people the right to vote, but to open the pathways to the vote. And now one has to wonder, after the Voting Rights Act and the gutting of Section 5, one has to wonder with a militarized America, how how much access will we have to the vote? I mean, for people who have a record, will you feel comfortable going to the ballot box? I mean, it's new to the American experience to have the military up and down our streets. Posse Comitatus was enacted after the Civil War to prevent just that, so that our armies would not be deployed, our armed forces would not be deployed against Americans. We haven't gotten over the Civil War yet. We're still fighting it in so many ways. So I want to know what your thoughts are. Think about the Insurrection Act, which can override Posse Comitatus from
Mm.
1878. So there are some back doors to all of this, but we really need to know what it is that we're looking at. And indeed, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said something yesterday that I think should give us all cause to pause. He believes that this administration will have the military seize ballot boxes so that he can count the votes himself in elections. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, according to this report from Common Dreams, issued a new warning on Wednesday about President Trump's efforts to deploy the American military in U.S. cities against the wishes of local elected officials. Hours after the president called for Pritzker's imprisonment, along with Mayor Brandon Johnson, by the way, the Illinois governor claimed in an interview on MSNBC that the president's ultimate goal with sending troops into American cities was to control the outcome of future elections. Quote, he wants to militarize major cities across the United States, especially blue cities and blue states, because he wants us to get used to the idea of the military on the streets. 2026 elections, I believe he continues, he's going to post people outside ballot boxes and polling places. And if he needs to, in order to control these elections, he'll assume control of the ballot boxes and count the votes. Indeed, the president did say in 2020 that he would do just such a thing. So I want to know what your thoughts are, everybody. Um, Indeed, President Eisenhower, who was a Republican, this really is a transpartisan issue, everybody. He told us to be wary of and to beware of the impact of the militarization of our society. The military industrial complex, he said, will not just have material impacts upon us, as in draining our resources. He said the spiritual impact is something that unsettled him. So I want to know what your thoughts are as we're going into this election season. What do you think? Meet me on Blue Sky, santitajackson.bsky.social, santitajackson.bsky.social. I'm on X at Santita J, at Santita J. I'm on Facebook, Santita Jackson and Friends. Santita Jackson and Friends. Please go there, everybody. Everyone keeps going to the landing page, and I cannot take any more friends. They keep kicking people off. That's not me. That's Facebook. They have a limit, and I've reached it there. I reached it there many, many years ago. And please go to Instagram, Santita Jackson IG, Santita Jackson IG. But if you really want to have some fun, meet us here on YouTube, The Santita Jackson Show. Like and subscribe so you can sit and hear and see all of these wonderful people. I'm hoping that we'll be able to get Reverend Jeanette Wilson up shortly. But we have got the executive director of the West Side Justice Center. She's doing such brilliant work not just in Chicago. People are looking to her nationally because in Portland, this is an issue. They want to know what Chicago is doing. Washington wants to know what Chicago is doing. Los Angeles wants to know what Chicago is doing because Chicago is so organized politically, so organized. Richard Daley did so much of that by organizing the Chicago machine. But then uh, Reverend Jackson, on an assignment from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, has been organizing for more than 60 years, along with so many other people. But we have been able uh, to come up with a lot of ways of building coalitions here. And so we've got Ariel Gold from the Fellowship of Reconciliation. Indeed, she is their executive director. She is just coming out of her high holy season. And my Jewish sister, I want to give you all of our love. We're so glad that you had such a blessed season with your family. Tio Hardiman, violence interrupter. Indeed, they said that they're bringing these troops to town because you need to do a better job, Tio, and interrupt this violence.
I
Although, if you
got you.
are in Chicago, and if you're looking at the news, you see a lot of commercials about reaching out to mental health facilities. This has been a real initiative that Mayor Johnson has gotten behind. In fact, he initiated it. He reopened these mental health clinics, and it has helped to drive crime down significantly. Getting our young people jobs has brought down crime significantly in the summer. They were able to work, they had income coming in. But let's talk about what's happening right now as I am hearing the helicopters above me because I live in the neighborhood where they had the raid, actually 5 blocks away. And I'm hearing the helicopters right now outside of my window.
Mm.
It's unbelievable. And so let me start with you, Attorney Tanya Woods. First, before we begin, I think I'm just going to make this a mantra every time we start one of these discussions. If we encounter the police, if we encounter ICE, if they approach us, what do we do? Let us start there.
Thank you so much, Santita, for that opportunity. I want everybody to stay calm and do not run. That's the first thing. Stay calm and do not run. And you want to ask any law enforcement, am I free to go? We have two basic constitutional rights. One is the right to counsel, and the other is the right not to consent to any unlawful searches. So you'll want to ask whoever is detaining you, am I free to go? And you can anticipate you are probably not going to get a straight answer. And so you must assume if you are not free to walk away calmly, that you are being detained, at which time you want to invoke your constitutional right to say, I will not talk without my lawyer. I will not talk without my lawyer. The second thing is if you are detained and then you are asked, hey, we just want to search your car. We just want to pat you down. or even if your home is invaded, as we have seen so many of our neighbors, you will want to invoke your next constitutional right and be able to affirm and state clearly, I do not consent to any searches. These two basic constitutional rights does not stop law enforcement from behaving badly. It may not stop them from searching your car or breaking down your front door, but it will help us as your legal advocates later in a court of law to be able to advocate for your freedom and for the liberation of others as we set and continue to push back on the unlawful use of our laws, the improper use of our laws, and put the hands of the law in the place of where the people are. So if you want to know more about that, those know your rights, those key two rights, you can reach us at the Westside Justice Center, 773-940-2213. We are passing out palm cards with these very essential rights on one side and resources on the other. We are telling people that it is most important to know your rights, but know your risks when you are enforcing them, know your resources if you should need them.
Well, I wanted to start there because this is something we need to hear every day, because we're not from a police culture, quite frankly. We're not. And so being encountered by ICE in particular, who uh, they are militarized. They're not like the police. They're militarized. Uh, Oftentimes they're masked and they have their guns outside at the ready, outside of their persons. So that's unsettling. And quite frankly, it's frightening. So we need to know, and we need to drill down every day, every time you're on this show, about what it is that we should do should we have one of these encounters. Because now uh, we are seeing that the question is, who looks like an American?
Well, and more importantly, I would beg to difference in small part, Santita, that many communities have been living under siege under this
Mhm.
kind of occupation from local law
Yeah.
enforcement. And so now what we are seeing is law enforcement in different uniforms, and certainly in a much more aggressive way and a much more offensive way than we have ever
Mhm.
seen before. And that is what is truly frightening and disturbing. The additional part to this, which
Yeah.
I find just equally as disturbing, if not more so, is that people are being ripped from their homes. They're being pulled out of their vehicles, and they're leaving children behind without adequate supervision or not knowing where they're going to go because their parents have been taken away. And we are literally ripping families apart at the seams. That is deplorable. It is inhumane, and it reckons from a time that we thought was behind us, but obviously it is not behind us.
Well, and quite frankly, it's sad, but many people did feel that this would not happen in South Shore, which is a stalwart middle class Black community. You have affluent Blacks here. You do have whites who live in South Shore. You have
Yeah.
working class, middle class. You have some poor people, but it really is the backbone of the Black middle class. And the fact that it happened here, sadly, a lot of people are shocked by this. And as we go into the 2026 election season, let me come over to you, Ariel. Um, as we're looking at Portland looking to push back, um, still there is the threat of the military being deployed into these American cities. How might that impact the 2026 election season as you see it?
Yeah, I was just looking at a poll myself. I live in New Jersey, and I was just looking at a poll of New Jersey voters because we have a very contested gubernatorial election taking place in New Jersey here. And I was looking at some of the shifts that have taken place in New Jersey more recently, which have shown a real increase in Republican voter registration. But even within that, the vast majority or the majority of New Jerseyans are worried about what is happening with immigration and the immigration raids, and specifically Latino and Hispanic residents of the state are worried about their loved ones or themselves getting deported. This is a time of like mass fear in this country, and it's real. You know, I think we're you know, Trump's policies are having that impact that puts so many people at risk of losing their loved ones, of having them snatched up off the streets. And I hear stories of people who are afraid to send their children to school and are afraid to, you know, day laborers who are afraid to go out and look for work for the day. And I hope that is having the impact that it needs to have, and that we have enough bold political leaders to really do the necessary grassroots organizing that we need to have take place to stop this occupation, not just of Chicago, but, you know, of our country that's happening here. Trump has brought the war back home, right? He may call himself the peace president, and I certainly hope this ceasefire, you know, takes effect and then holds in Gaza. But we have a war here on our streets and on our families right here. And we need to all, you know, there's a lot of trainings on how to do protective presence, how to protect your neighbors, how to, you know, I know my synagogue holds know your rights trainings. We need to be with each other. This is about showing up for each other right now and showing up for the most vulnerable among us.
But Ariel, why is your synagogue? And I would ask that about, you know, different churches. Just why what in your congregation is the compelling reason for having these know your rights presentations? I mean, it's like you're getting prepped as well. Why?
Yeah, well, it's so that we can support each other very much. So in my synagogue, it's not that anyone in my synagogue is at risk of being deported or having a loved one deported, but that is our history as Jews. We know what it is to be taken from our homes in the middle of the night. We know what it is to be separated from our loved ones. We know what it is to be strangers in a new country. And so that does resonate for us. And so in particular, my synagogue is in a neighborhood that's a very mixed neighborhood. And so it's also opening its doors for anybody to get these trainings and for this bystander training, right? What is it? You know, I'm a white person, I have citizenship, I have a lot of privilege. So how do I leverage that to protect those among me who are the most vulnerable?
Theo Hardiman, your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. What's going on? I would like to present a solution from my perspective anyway. So what I'd like to see take place is the people that have been here in the United States for a year or better, they should be able to stay here. I'm talking about a compromise now, you know, with the leaders, have a conversation about it. Allow the people to stay here if they've been here a year or more and they haven't committed any crimes, right? And they're working a job. Now, people that have come here and they've been here only a year or less, that's a different scenario. They may have to go back. I'm talking about a 50-50 balance now, right? And then the president, the mayors and the governors should do their best to strengthen the borders here in the United States as we move forward. And then also, a lot of people want the young brothers to stop fighting each other on the streets of Chicago, St. Louis, you know, New York, wherever the case may be. But here it is, you have leaders, so-called leaders of the United States, one of the most sophisticated countries in the free world, so to speak. And we cannot even come together and have a conversation first about a possible solution before everybody jumps the gun and everybody's just working in their own little like silo saying this is what we're going to do. And everybody's saying this is how we're going to resist. Now, that's my major issue with it. I'm thinking that everybody should do their best first to meet. You know, Santita, I don't have everything in front of me as far as your father's 6 or 7 steps to negotiation, but I know one is to call a meeting, number one, with the people, no matter what it takes. Call a meeting, whether you're Democrat or Republican, come to the table. If the meeting fails, then you try to go back, you kind of put it all back together and try to meet one more time before you go to protesting and demonstrating. And then if all else fails, that's when you talk about military, ICE, and all that kind of stuff. That's just the way I look at it for right now, because this country was built by immigrants, and you know, there's rules. We have laws in the country.
Wait a minute. It was
Now
built
let me
by
just.
no. I
Yeah,
was
no,
just
I just want to
no.
finish. I'm not
I
going to.
always have I always have to stop right here because it was built by enslaved people.
No, no, I was about to say that, Santita.
Yeah. Oh,
I
okay.
was about to say
Yeah,
that.
we
Hear
got
me
to be
clearly.
clear. We got to be
No,
clear.
no. I was about to say that. I want to make that clear. My
Okay.
thing is, we're not. My forefathers are not immigrants here. My forefathers were forced to come over here. African people that were forced into slavery, who helped build this country, without a doubt. I want to just make that crystal clear. But the point I'm making, a lot of other people arrived here in the United States, however they got here. But the thing is, we cannot overlook that fact. So I believe that everybody's playing political football with the immigration issue right now. That's what I see happening. There's a bigger picture behind all of what it is. It's a smokescreen, in my opinion, because you have President Trump that's doubling down on the immigrants for whatever reason. Then you have on the Democratic side, it appears that they're looking at it for like potential votes down the road. I don't, all of a sudden I see a lot of people that are high level political officials that never protest for anything in their life. Now they're on the front line protesting. They have no history, no type of background of standing up against issues like this. Now all of a sudden it's popular. When I was protesting against police brutality, excessive force in Chicago, people thought I was crazy out there. I stood up myself. You see, now all of a sudden it's popular for people to protest and back protest because it may benefit them to a degree. Now, I will always say this, no matter how people look at it. When it comes down to, okay, put it like this. When it comes down to the main issues of African American people, when we were under siege, a lot of the Jewish community, they supported us. A lot of other communities supported us. And I'm okay with all of that. But right now, this issue right here with immigration, I don't know all the way if it's really like an issue that Black folks should take on to the highest level. Some people may not like that comment, but that's fine, because the reality is my people still struggling to this day. African American people are still struggling, and we need help. My name is T.O. Hardiman. I'm African American. I'm at risk of being pulled over by my name, T.O. Hardiman. I have to make sure I don't have nothing in my car, that no type of weapons or anything. And I'm the kind of guy, if I'm in the right, I'm not going to let you put me in no handcuffs. Y'all could lose me in a situation like that, because I'm not going to allow you to detain me and put me in no handcuffs. And I know I'm in the right about something. I can't deal with that, Santita, right? So I just
But
want to share my point of view with it, okay?
no, but that's why I asked you here. That having been said, because that you have a point of view. Number one, it matters, but it's a
Yeah,
point of view, Tanya, that a lot and Ariel, that a lot of people have, that they hold. The challenge, though, is that what you've done unto the least of these, you've also done unto me. If it happens to the most vulnerable in a society, it will happen to you. Which is why at the top of the show, I had attorney Tanya Wood say, if you encounter the police, because the Palm card works for us 24/7, 365. We have
hmm,
under occupation. Sadly, in the
right.
Black community, you have class issues like everybody else. This is a middle class and upper class Black area. People did not expect it to happen here. So there is a shock and awe for this, but it's like, wait a minute, everybody's in on this. Um, I told you of what I was kind of gently ribbing you. I said, you better be careful because people will mistake you for something else. And
No
it
doubt,
doesn't
no
even,
doubt.
it does not even matter, because at the end of the day, of course we want our resources, but they have us playing with each other. What you need to know, we're going to be talking with Victoria Law, an investigative journalist, about this in the next day or so, about the profit motive in these detention centers. The
Exactly.
detention centers and the detainees have exploded since the 90s. And what these private prisons have done is lobbied the government so they could get government contracts and build a new industry of private prisons. And they get people to work in there. These private prisons are run by the detainees, the cooks. They do everything but have the keys. So there's something rotten in Denmark, and we need to look at all of that. The fact is, Attorney Tanya Woods, there's a surprisingly high number of Black immigrants in Chicago, and so you don't have to open your mouth. The assumption that we have all heard, go back to Africa.
Yeah, and I want to speak to that, Santita, very clearly because Tio, I definitely hear you. I want to encourage every listener and viewer to make the decisions that they need to make for themselves, which is why you will
Right.
hear me say, know your rights, know your risks, and know your
Mhm.
resources. Tio may be situated in such a way that if he is stopped and detained, that he wants to take that on. But I will say that for the broad majority of our folks, I encourage folks to stay calm and to walk away calmly if they are allowed to do so in order to reduce the risk of harm to themselves or to others. And I say that because all too often we may, because we know that we are right or feel as though we were right, want to litigate in the spot on the moment with those law enforcement agents. And you may find that the absence of me or my husband or my son now is taken from us, leaves a big gaping hole in that family or that community. So I will always double down on staying calm and asking the question, am I free to go? Which you will
Mhm.
probably be met with evasiveness and more questions, in which case you should assume that you are not free to go. In which
Well,
case you are going to demand and say, I will not talk without my lawyer. That is it. Do not answer any questions. Do not say anything further. Do not try to negotiate or cajole or persuade. I will not talk without my lawyer. Your next course of action is to insist if someone wants to search you, your person, your pocketbook, your car, or your home, is that I do not consent to any searches. These things are important so that we as lawyers and advocates, when we find ourselves in a court of law, which unfortunately at this moment is one of our strongest recourses, that we have all of the equipment and tools that we need to fight vociferously and enthusiastically for your liberation as an individual, but your liberation in a courtroom means liberation for other people as well. And so that's why you will hear me double down on that. I will say to you, one of your viewers who spoke about immigration maybe being an issue that is keeping us distracted from the central issues that face Black people. And I say, nay, it does not. We are still, as Black folks, centering the concerns that are foremost, first and center for Black folks. We still have issues around education, housing, healthcare, mental health that we know with more investment in those areas, that's what keeps our communities safe. But what is troubling is that we are being besieged and violence is being brought to us by our federal government in order to incite chaos, confusion, and riotousness and lawlessness. So if we are able as a people to continue to build coalitions that are strong, that we are building our legal capacity, we are building our mutual aid, we are doubling down on our conduits so that we can help each other. If we are, our sources of education are interrupted, if we can't get to the grocery store to get groceries, if we can't get grandma's medication, that we have pathways to keep us safe. Because at the end of the day, it is us who keeps us safe. But as far as Black immigrants, that is a silent population that is largely going unaddressed. And as you pointed out, it doesn't matter. Before they know your name, T.O., they are already profiling you by the way you
right.
look. Right.
That's right.
And so
That's
what
right.
we know that means for people who are both undocumented and or who are immigrants, if you are our skin color, if you speak with an accent, or if you are in a particular occupation, our federal agents now are endowed with the authority to detain you. And so that means our Haitian and Creole speaking brothers and sisters, our Belizean brothers and sisters, our East African brothers and sisters, they are also at risk if they too are caught up in between. And that goes
Yeah.
not only for our undocumented brothers and sisters, but for people who might already be in a pipeline towards citizenship, a lawful pipeline, that still may be in jeopardy. So people who have already applied for US citizenship or temporary protective status or for asylum, our asylum seekers, they are also at risk. And so what I am seeing is that all of us who do not look like the oppressor, we are all at risk. And so if we are able to bring our resources together, then we are much better able to fight not only for our own individual liberation, the liberation of our cultures, our ethnicities, and our tribes, but for all of us. And we all can win and push back. So make no mistake, I still keep central in front of mind the needs of my community, while at the same time, I still have room to be able to fight for those others who have no advocates or who have far fewer advocates. There is only one Black-led immigration legal aid clinic in the city of Chicago and Cook County. There are only 2 Black-led immigration clinics in the entire state, and now 3 added to that number with the Westside Justice Center adding to our practice immigration,
Yeah.
so that we can be sure that we are not leaving anyone in the Black community behind, regardless of their status.
Well,
But I just wanted
because
to add,
okay, but let me just add this to you, because all Black Americans recoiled in horror. Americans did. Black people felt this on another level when we saw the people at the border a couple of years ago, well, maybe 3 years ago now, and they sicked the horses. You remember that, Ariel, on the Black migrants.
right.
So it made Maxine Waters, Jonathan Jackson, everybody in the world went down there. The Kennedys, I think Robert Kennedy's sister, because it was like, wait a minute, hold on, this is looking like slavery to us. And I think we've got to be able to walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. I'm never ever going to defend my advocacy for Black people because that's what we have done. And my father put his life on the line every single day of my life to do that. So I don't even want to hear that. But one of the things that we learned, Dr. King's last great campaign was on bringing all of our people together because we were all being oppressed by the same forces.
Right.
While he was still arguing for economic justice for Black people and justice for Black folks. You got to be able to do all of that at the same time because we're being hit by everything at the same time. Now, because guess what? When they roused those people out of bed last Tuesday, they didn't even ask who was an American or not. And most of the building was populated by Americans.
That's my point.
No,
Right.
no, and no, that is my point too. I'm
Yes.
saying they roused, they went after, and they have been rounding up Americans, and they've been
Yes.
rounding up Black Americans. That's a story that's not being told. And
Exactly.
so I'm saying to say you can't extrude and extract Black people from that, Black Americans from that, because it's hitting everybody at the same time. We have to be able to fight for the rights of Black Americans and how we have been denied. There's no question, but
Right.
everybody's getting hit. Everybody at the same time. Let me get to the vote because really that's one of the things in a normal time. In normal times, we deal with voter suppression. We deal with blocking of access to the vote. And I think it will be compounded by having the military on our streets. And so because
So
I'm
I'm going
thinking
to
of
tell you, it
people.
is already having a chilling effect right now. When you
Okay,
talk
tell
about the
me about that.
military on our streets, we are seeing, as you have described, so aptly now, and it bears telling over and over again, that horrific scene of the Black Hawk helicopters overhead that you still can hear now. I promise you, I'm seeing drones all over the place, and those are not just children playing with their playthings.
Mhm.
Those are military grade drones that are surveilling our communities. We have become accustomed to the blue lights on every corners in Black and brown communities that are supposed to be shot spiders, but spotters rather, but indeed are just other forms of surveillance. And before we start to get too accustomed to this, we want to be sure that we are raising our voices together to say we're not going to continue to put up with this type of occupation, which indeed is what it is. Children are afraid. We are getting calls at the Westside Justice Center almost daily from educators calling us from school saying that they have parents sitting in the principal's office worried about someone has been disappeared the night before. Should they bring their kids to school or shouldn't they? What happens to those children when their learning is interrupted? They're already far behind because of the inequities in our education system, and falling even farther behind if they're going to be terrorized in their own places where they should be able to go to school and learn. We are already seeing the people changing the way they go back and forth to work, whether or not they're going to drive or not to work, because they are fearful in the same way that many Black folks have always been fearful about driving while Black. We see this now more prolific in places that, people had been like, hey, not me, it's not going to happen to me. But now folks are really worried about and changing their pathways back and forth to work and school. Folks are now sending people in the family to go out and get the groceries because they are afraid to go to the grocery store during the day and they can only move around at night. So this is not some dystopian novel or some science fiction Hollywood picture that we are talking about. This is what is happening in our streets right here, right now. And it's happening on a daily basis and getting even more terrified as the days go by, only exacerbated by threats of sending more troops, National Guard from Texas and other states coming to Chicago. We know that there are already mobilization that is happening in the southwest suburbs in a town called Elwood, where those troops are supposedly already putting themselves together and, as they say, lining up in formation because our governor has refused to make our armories available to this kind of nonsense. But what we may call nonsense is dangerous. It is terrifying, and it is only going to bring more violence and incite even more chaos and more confusion.
Do you see this same thing, Ariel, happening in red states? You know, as particularly as we go into, I mean, we're going into the voting season. We're here.
No, let's be clear. And Trump has not framed it that way. If there's one thing we can say about President Trump, he tells us who he is, right? He's not too shy about that.
Yes,
And he promised to impose this on blue states. He promised to impose this on communities, our American cities that are diverse, that have immigrants, that have Black folks, that are progressive. He promised that, and he's been delivering, right? This is a terrifying time that we are in. And I've been kind of thinking on, and I just want to echo that, that call to stay calm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because let's be clear, it is the troops, it is the institutions who have the weapons, right? They have the violence and they own the fear, right? That is, and we're not going to be able to compete with that. And we wouldn't want to anyway. So we have to counter strategically and with love, as Dr. King taught us, with love and with our legal rights, with all the tools that we have at our disposal, but we have to do so calmly and strategically and together, united, right? We have to not be splintered. We have to come together in these dark and dangerous times. And yeah, absolutely. We also need to come together at the ballot box. Let's face it, that's one of the tools in that we have available to us, as much as it is repressed. And I think certainly that is a goal of having the police in the streets, is to make people fearful to come out and vote, to exercise.
Absolutely. I heard someone say the other day that people just need to stay inside. And I said, I don't want to live in a world where I have to stay inside. I don't want to teach my children that they have to stay inside. I have a Black son and a Black daughter. And that is not the world that I choose for them to inherit. And so I push back on that type of rhetoric. Now, that comes from a place of fear. And so I am not blaming the messenger or individuals who feel afraid. I am just saying that this is what it has come to for many families already, is that they are already afraid to come outside. And they are beginning to wonder if maybe the best place for me is to stay inside, right? And so we don't have to wait until election time. We are already seeing this happen now. And so what I am urging folks to do is to be engaged, but first do so in a way that you are able to measure and know what your risks are when you choose to be engaged. This is not a moment where I'm saying sit on your hands and stay inside out of fear, but gauge what your risks are by being involved. If you are a person that has a higher risk, then you may need to move differently, but it doesn't mean that you have to sit on your hands and sit idly by and watch this happen play out in front of you. Some of our at-risk community members include those who are undocumented. It includes people who have a criminal background, our re-entering citizens. It includes our juveniles who are under 18, because we know when they are picked up that the rules work differently for them as juveniles than they do for us. It works differently for people who are unhoused and who also may be undocumented and who also may have a criminal background. And so these are some of our more at-risk individuals, as well as our Black immigrants who are here working and contributing to the marketplace and to society, but are coming from countries in the West Indies, from East Africa, from West Africa, who are also at risk. And so know your rights, but also know your risks and know your resources, so that if you do find yourself detained, that you know who to call, your loved ones know who to call. If you're interested in those palm cards, please give us a call at the Westside Justice Center, 773-940-2213, and we can make those palm cards available to you and your community, with your constitutional rights on one side and then hotlines on the back that service all of Illinois.
But these vulnerable citizens, people who, we had a famous case of a young Black woman who went to prison because the election judge told her that she was cleared to vote. You remember that down in Texas? I'm wondering if this will have a chilling effect on such a consequential election. Of course, we always say that these elections are consequential, but they are. They always are. They always are. This one, especially as you are debating whether your healthcare premiums are going to double. This, as you are paying more for groceries than ever before, while we are cutting checks left and right for these foreign wars or interventions. I mean, think about this. And so when Americans are really quite fluid in our politics now, the plurality of Americans are independent. Look, if you really want to look at the numbers, neither Democrats nor Republicans are raising a lot of cane with Americans. They have not reached a 50% approval rating with none of them have. They haven't. So I'm wondering, when you see these people, who are already nervous about the police, but if you've been involved in the criminal justice system, if you're adjacent to it at all, T.O., I'm wondering, as we're trying to get people registered to vote and involved in just really to become full citizens, T.O.
Yeah.
Well, if you see people walking around with guns, I would think that would have a chilling effect.
It would have a serious chilling effect on people, right? And so what I was saying, we have a president that does not really respect the law of the United States, number one. And if you are detained, hypothetically speaking, you get detained, you could end up in El Salvador in that big prison in El Salvador. Before they get you back a year later, you'll be all disshuffled and messed all the way up. I think President Trump, and I'm going to say it in the best way I can put it out there, I believe he's taken a page out of Adolf Hitler's textbook as far as the road to genocide. Because let me explain. First, they started out with the propaganda. Then they started labeling people, and then they started taking people to them concentration camps, and then genocide took place. I don't know if he's going to go to that level, because this is the United States, but I believe he's been reading some of Adolf Hitler's memoirs or something, because this guy, man, is just ridiculous with this stuff, in my opinion. That's the reason why I said I didn't want to be detained, put in handcuffs, because I don't want to end up in El Salvador. By the time, and a lot of people say they'll speak up for you when you get into some situation like that. They can create any narrative they would like to create around you and make it look like you belong over in El Salvador and that maximum prison over there. It could happen to anybody. So what I'm saying is that I understand respecting the law and staying calm. I got that. I believe in that all the way. That's why I'm still around today. But no one wants to be violated like that. Nobody. No. I've been in handcuffs before. The handcuffs is not. Yeah, go ahead. I'm listening.
No. That having been said, nobody wants to be violated. But
that's right.
There's being right. There's being damned right.
Yes.
And you don't want to be damned. You don't want to be put into damnation.
Right.
Don't think that Dr. King didn't have a temper. Jesus had a temper.
Yeah.
Don't think that there have been times when Reverend hasn't wanted to strike out. Reverend Bevel was a whole lot of guy. So was Marion Barry. And we can just keep on going. But you know what they were? They were smart. Rosa Parks had been profoundly insulted.
Yes.
There's a book entitled At the Dark End of the Street. She said what kept her moving. Number one, when she wouldn't move on the bus when she thought about Emmett Till. But what kept her active, this was a woman who was the state secretary of the NAACP when it was illegal to be a member. She said, but when I look in the mirror and see all of the racial mixture and I think of the abuse of my foremothers, I can't stop. So we're not the first people to feel affronted and to feel insulted. Your ancestors have felt it, Ariel. But there's something, but I mean, my parents would always tell me that the baddest people are the deadest ones.
Mm.
You've got to be smart.
Yeah,
You need
yeah.
to live to fight another day. People need the violence interrupters.
I concur
People
with you
need
all the
Tanya
way.
Woods.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you
I
know
mean,
what?
so it's like that
The
doesn't
violence,
make us bigger.
and you know what? The violence is what they want. That's what
Right.
they want. You know, going back to the rise of the Third Reich in Nazi Germany, we look at the Reichstag fire and what enabled Hitler to
Exactly.
seize power in the way that he did. And I fully agree. I fully agree that Trump is taking a page out of the Third Reich. And he wants this violence, right? And so he wants people afraid and to respond out of that fear so that he can send more troops in.
That's what I'm
You
talking
know
about.
what? And so did Bull Connor, but Dr. King wouldn't rise to the bait.
That's right.
Okay. So I mean, so did all of these people. And you know what? C.T. Vivian, Reverend C.T. Vivian wouldn't rise to the bait as they busted him in his mouth and tried to destroy his face as he was seeking to vote. He wouldn't rise to the bait.
Mm.
He said, I'm just going to pray for you. And I'm going to be nonviolent. The nonviolent resistance is absolutely radical. And you have to know how to do it. Don't think that they did. I mean, what got Gandhi involved in nonviolent resistance in his activism, he was a highborn Indian. But what happened to him was he found out that he was the N-word down in South Africa. And that completely changed his outlook. Come on, y'all. We have to be smart.
May I
And
offer for
yes,
people who do want to fight back and participate, and
but
I
there's a way
use
to
the
do it,
word,
right?
there's a way to do it that's impactful, that is sustainable. Folks, we are in a marathon, not a sprint. And so that means we cannot blow the wad on one place and in one area. I offer to your viewers and to your listeners as they are centering the things that are most important to them and their families, as you are learning about your rights, how to enforce your rights and do so safely at minimal harm to yourself and to your family. One, I encourage you all to not only know your rights, but bring others along with you. Here in Chicago, we have community know your rights sessions across the city for people to learn about not only their rights, but if they are central in their communities, that they can teach these same rights to other people in an effort to keep themselves safe, to keep them away, as far away from harm as possible, so that they are not disappeared and can continue to be the resource to their families that they need to be. The second thing is that I ask you and implore that you invest in your Black-led community-based organizations. Along with the Westside Justice Center, there are so many others that are doing very important work. And our resources are under siege as well. And so we need to be investing in our own institutions and in our own community-based organizations. So many of us are not-for-profit organizations. And quite honestly, this that we're talking about right now for the last 45 minutes is having a chilling effect on us as organizers and as organizations, because we're often not sure about how that's going to impact our ability to do business tomorrow. So find a community-based organization that you believe in, that you trust, and invest in the same way you tithe at church. Lastly, investigate and be curious and ask questions of your public officials. Ask your elected officials, what are they doing and thinking at this very vital moment? Find out where they land on what side of this very monumental moment in history. Find out what resources they are trying to make available to the communities where you live and work. If you can manage to do those three things, that puts you in the driver's seat on the offense and not sitting idly by and feeling as though you just have to watch what's happening in front of you. But it's important that you not only know your rights and the ways that you can engage, but you know your risks when you are doing so.
Well, absolutely. But, let me go around because I want to get closing thoughts from everyone. And I'm actually going to have you close out, Attorney Woods, with what we need to do and how we need to do it. That's how we'll close this out. But, T.O., we're going to put you in between all the ladies. He had to leave us. Well, okay, but that's all right. Ariel, what would you advise us to do? Because one of the things that we see is, my father would often say, nobody will save us for us but us. but he also understood the power of coalition, because we really have to be together. We have to be together. Thank you, Tio, for coming back, because I'm going to get closing thoughts from you, but hold on one moment. I mean, we're all under the same boot. And if we understand that, we will fight for each other in another way. That's why, Dr. King, they took him out before he was going to become the most powerful voice in the anti-war movement and leading a poor people's campaign. It wasn't a black poor people's campaign. He said, "Oh no, we got a lot of that." But do you know that white people in Appalachia, excuse me, do you know how poor they are? I mean, do you not understand what's happening with the farm workers? That's why Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta signed on. Rabbi Heschel, all these people. We have to do this together. That's the only way we're going to make it. The reason the oligarchs are doing so well is because they have us divided. They have us fighting each other.
All the time. And Santita, what's so crazy is that I would never negate anybody's lived experiences where they
Oh,
have
yeah.
felt as though they are fighting alone, or where they have been abandoned by tribes and other ethnicities and other groups. But there is more coalition building here in Chicago between Black and brown communities. There is more togetherness that happens than people really realize. And so we have to
Absolutely.
lift up those coalitions as a counter narrative to what we are often taught. We are often taught that there is a war between our cultures. And you
Mhm.
ask somebody, well, did you see that? Did you witness that? Were you a participant in that? And oftentimes we're not. We're just going by the things that we have heard. And even if you were, and that has been your experience,
Mhm.
that does not have to be the leading and primary experience, because there are many more where people are coming together across ethnicities, across cultural divides, in order to fight for communal and coalitions and for collective liberation, and identifying who the true enemy is, and that is the oppressor. And we can get a whole lot more done if we do that together than we can apart, and still be able to uplift our own people and center our own issues.
Absolutely, because we're all healing, everybody. And nobody, I saw the movie Glory, Ariel, and when when uh, when one of the great scenes with Denzel Washington, who was this rebellious man who had been enslaved, who was very deeply pained and angry about it. But it turns out he and the leader of their troop were two different sides of the same coin. And the leader of the troop, he acknowledged that. And Denzel Washington's character said, "You know what? I guess we all have to ante up like men, because ain't nobody clean. We're all in this now." I literally have a minute for you, Ariel. Ariel.
I'll really just repeat what you've been saying. We are all in this now, and we are all together. And it's none of us, or it's all of us. Our liberation is combined, and our survival in this political time with the rise of autocracy, not just here in the United States, but really across the world. So we are all in this together. And those of us that have more safety, have more privilege, need to show up for each other, for those who are the least vulnerable. And we need to be together, not divided right now.
Always that we win together, we lose apart. Tio Hardeman, number one, your book.
Yeah, my book is Interrupting Gun Violence, The Public Health Approach. You can get it on Amazon. And also, I want to say that I read some of the comments. I'm not angry or nothing. I want to make that clear. I'm an absolute professional, high-level intellectual thought leader. I was a little upset. There was an 8-year-old kid killed in Chicago yesterday. That was on my mind in a major way, because he was 8 years. Even if he was like 20 years, it doesn't, but 8 years old, give me a break, right? So I was thinking about that as we were talking here. And I don't have much more to say other than the fact I'm happy to be on the call with you, and nobody should worry about me. It's just I was a born revolutionary. It's in my spirit. That's in my DNA. It's nothing I can do about it. Okay, I was born this way.
We know you, Tio.
And we
Right.
love you, and that's why we want you out here. So
That's right.
we're gonna keep you calm, because
Yes. Yeah.
wait a minute, because they want to shut you down, and we're not gonna let that happen.
Appreciate you.
Just very quickly, Attorney Tanya Woods,
Yes.
West Side Justice Center. What do we need to do?
I need you to know your rights, exercise them safely at the least amount of harm to yourself and to your people. I need you to invest in your Black-led community-based organizations so we can stay united and undergird our resources. And I need you to hold your elected officials and public officials accountable. Ask them, what are they doing in this moment, so that you can be certain that they are working in your best interest. If you'd like more information about the Know Your Rights palm cards, visit us at westsidejustice.org or call us at 773-940-2213.
Sending you so much love, everybody.
Peace.
Remember, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, we've got to go together, and we have to
Right
stay
on.
together. You know, if you read your Bible, separating us into different ethnicities and races was punishment, because we just kept fighting with each other. We are really children of one spirit, and one day we're going to have to really acknowledge that, while acknowledging all of the painful experiences that we have absorbed, the colorism that we have all absorbed, that many of us, that we all have to work through, the various forms of classism that we all have to work through. Nobody is immune. Everybody's struggling with it. Some of us might be more highly placed economically, but trust and believe, we're all under the boot. While the people at the top are laughing, getting richer, and they're taking our rights away, everybody. We're being surveilled more closely every day, and we are intentionally being frightened. So fear is false evidence appearing real. It is not of God. I want you to get registered to vote, and I want you to get out here and make a difference. Let us save the country and the world. It's our country. I know we got some issues, but it's ours.
That's
And we
right.
have the power to make it what it's supposed to be. Not just a more perfect union, but the perfect union. No place on earth has everybody here. Everybody's here. And everybody wants to be here. If you don't believe it, look at the culture that rules the world. It's American culture. We've come up with some great things here. James Brown is from here. Barbara Streisand is from here. Roberta, Aretha, Leontine Price. I mean, all these people are from here. Think about that. Look at what we've come up with here. Let's keep fighting, everybody. The greatest preaching, soul food of all kinds, it's all here. I love it. And let's make this country what it's supposed to be.
All right.
And let's lift each other up. I love you, everybody. God bless you.
Thanks, Santita.
See you time, everybody.
Peace and love.
All
Thank
right,
you.
see ya.
And love. Much love and many
All right.
blessings, everybody. We're going to be
Mm.
talking about Israel, Hamas, Venezuela with Dave DeCamp of antiwar.com. Yeah, what kind
All
of
right.
deal did they cut? Who's
Gotcha.
the winner here? Let's talk about it here on the Santita Jackson Show.
All right.
Back in
Peace.
just a moment.